Hey guys, so midterm review. This is day one, so this is questions 1 through 9. I won't be going over every single one of them. I will be going over a few of them extensively, but not all of them. So, number one, I'll do the whole thing and explain, but things like number two, I won't be doing all three of those. I'll just probably explain kind of how to do them, maybe write a few notes on it, and then move on. I don't want to, take all the review away from you guys. But there are, if you're completely stuck and have no idea what to do, there are other videos out there, Khan Academy, that kind of thing, or you can work with a partner or a group or anything like that. As long as you're getting this done and getting the exposure to it, that's all I'm really worried about. So, for number one, so a system of equations, right? We're solving a system. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it still looks bad. Oh well. So, a system of equations by graphing, right? So, a system of equations just means more than one equation that you just want to see, when they're equal. So, solving is going to be when they're equal. So, I'm going to graph these two things here. So, I have one right here. Oh gosh, I have one right here. I'm gonna do this one in red. Let me go back. I don't know what happened. There. I'm gonna do this one in red. This one in blue. Okay, so 2x plus 3. So your first step is to plot the y-intercept. So the y-intercept for the red one up there is 2x plus 3. The y-intercept is 3. So I'm going to plot that right there. So when I want to plot that, I'm going to plot it right over here. I'm going to zoom this in so that it's a little bit easier for me. So the red one's going to go at 0, 3 right here. Right. So then I come back over here. You see my red dot there. And the slope is going to be 2, right? So remember, this is y equals mx plus b. So m is your slope, b is your y-intercept. So our m here is 2. So I'm going to zoom back in over here. Since our slope is 2, right, our red slope is going to be 2 over 1. Right, and I know I'm writing really bad. I can't really put my hand down on the screen or else it messes up. So I have to write it floating in the air. But since our slope is 2 over 1, I just go up 2, 1, 2, over 1, right? So my next point is going to be right there. Okay, again, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. And there you go. Right, I can continue going down, so I can go down 2, left 1, down 2, left 1, so on and so forth. So I'm just going to kind of sketch this. Hopefully I can do okay here. And yeah, that works. Okay, so that's our red line. Our blue line is going to be right here. Our y-intercept looks like it's 8, so I'm going to come over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 right up here. And our slope is going to be negative 3 over 1. So I'm going to come over here, and that means I'm going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and over 1. What do you know? That's where our intersection is. So I'm really just going to sketch the rest of it because it doesn't matter. That's going to be our point of intersection right here. So that solution has to be an x and a y value. It has to be in an ordered pair. So I'm going to go over 1 and up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So our solution is 1, 5. Right, let me write that a little bit better. 1, 5. Right, so there you go. That's how you find it. Remember, guys, you plot the y-intercept first, and then the slope, and it's as easy as that for solving a system of equations by graphing. Okay, we move down here. These I'm going to leave to you guys. I'll kind of talk about it just a little bit. Remember, guys, elimination, you're really just adding these two system of equations, these equations, and eliminating a variable. So if you see here, check that out. Oh, that's a pretty, let me zoom in on it. So by elimination, check this out. These are already opposite. Remember, when we add a positive y and a negative y, they will cancel out. Right? They will cancel out. So your first step should be adding these, and seeing 2x plus 3x, I'm sorry, 2x plus x is 3x. Positive y plus a negative y cancels out. and 3 plus 6 is 9. And then you were to solve that. And then you plug in whatever you find for x here, you're going to plug into one of those original equations to find y. And that's your solution. Okay, that's what you'll write down here for solution. All right. Next will be substitution. This one's pretty simple. If you say x plus y is equal to 12, but I know y is equal to 5x, I can literally just substitute this in for y. So instead of writing y, you'd write 5x. So you would say x plus 5x equals 12 and solve it that way. Pretty simple. Okay, and then solve using any method. You can use elimination if you want to, or you can use substitution if you want to. Okay, you can use substitution by solving for one of these variables, or you can use elimination by multiplying this guy, sorry, bad, by a -2, right? So that when you do that, you will get this, let me circle it in red. This term will be 2 times -2 would be -4x. So it would be a -4x, and then you'd have to multiply by -2 everything else, and then you'd be able to eliminate that way. You'd have a -4x and a +4x that would cancel. Your y's would add up. Your guys over here would add up, and you'd be good. Okay, so make sure you try that one. All right. So that's it for the first page. I'm not able to string these along. I don't think. Yeah, I don't think I'm able to string these along, but that's okay. Okay, so that's day 1, page 1, and I'll upload the next page here in a sec. Okay, so on to number 3, right? On to number 3. So I'm not gonna do this whole thing either. Number 3, that is, I'm just gonna do a little bit of it, and then the rest is really gonna be really similar to number 1, so that's where I'll stop. Okay, but first I want to get this so that I have y isolated. Remember, you need y to be by itself in order to graph anything. That's always been true. You need y equals something in order for it to be a function. Same thing here. For an inequality, we need it to be y is less than or y is greater than or anything like that so that we can graph. So here we want this y by itself. What do we have to get rid of? That -x. How do we do that? Hang on, let me get rid of all this. So this is going to be this equation. So how do we do that? Right, we're going to have this. To get rid of that -x, all we do, guys, is you add x. Oh, jeez. This is not the easiest thing to write with. Add x. Jeez. Add x to both sides. So when I add the x over here, these will cancel out. So I'll just be left with y is less than. The 3 and the x are not going to combine, guys. You cannot make this a 3x. You cannot make this x3, x to the third. Doesn't matter. You just leave them separate. So I'm going to bring that x to the front. And there you go. Right, there's your inequality. Okay, so then you're going to graph that over here. Same process as number 1. You're going to graph the y-intercept first, and then you're going to use the slope to graph the rest of the points and spread that over that line. Okay, so then I'm going to stop there for that one. The blue line here, we want to get y by itself still. So we've got to get rid of that 4x and that 2 that's attached to it. So when I come here, I'm going to subtract 4x. Oh, man. Let me zoom in on this so I can write better. So I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. Right. When I do that, I'm going to be left with the 2y on this side. -4x will go in front because that's how I always write it. Right? Yes, you can write -2 minus 4x, and then you can flip them, but I'm just skipping that step. And again, we want y by itself, so that 2 is not going to cut it, so I've got to divide. I wrote that 2 right there. Divide everything by 2. Everything by 2. Don't forget to divide everything by 2, not just 1 or 2 of the things. Everything's got to be divided by 2. So this will cancel. So I'll be left with y is less than or equal to -4 over 2 is -2. And -2 over 2 is -1. So then there's my other equation. So That's a big difference in size. So I have that equation down here and this equation up here. I have the red one and I have the blue one. I just graph both of those. And then the big thing, guys, the big difference is if you were to have, in this case, we have two less than signs, right? We have the less than and then the less than or equal to. That less than, right? So less than or equal to. You shade, you know what? Let me zoom in here so that I can write bigger. So less than or equal to, you shade below. You shade below the line, right? Whatever line you may draw, you're going to shade below it. So after you graph that y-intercept and you graph that slope and everything like that, you're going to shade below whatever line you just drew. And when you have greater than or equal to, it's going to be vice versa, right? You're obviously going to shade above. Right? Now, similarly, not similarly, but also, if it is less than or if it's greater than, you're going to shade with, not shade. You're going to line with a dashed line. Your line will be dashed. While if it is greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, you will be lining it with a solid line. So you have solid and you have dashed. All right, so make sure you take all of that into account when you are graphing these inequalities. Okay, coming down here, number 4. Guys, you remember how to do this, hopefully. Honestly, off the top of my head, I'm at home right now. I don't remember the exact way to do this in the calculator, but I'm I have no idea, honestly, how to do it. But it was like menu and then something, something, something. You're really just going to put in these equations here. It's like menu system of equations or menu algebra system of equations, something like that. But we'll kind of go over that whenever I get back. I need to see the calculator in order for that to pop back in my head. Someone I'm sure remembers how to do it in class, so just ask them. Whoever remembers, kind of make sure everyone else remembers. But, you're just sitting here and doing this in the calculator. Woo! That's a no. Okay, no big deal, that one. Okay, come down here. You guys can do this. I'm not worried about this. You guys can do this. Remember, guys, revenue is how much you're making. Obviously, cost is how much you're spending. So profit is going to be when revenue is greater than cost, obviously. So all this up here is going to be a profit. While, all that's debt, but I don't see any debt here. But profit is when that revenue is above the cost. How much money did they make? That's going to be the difference between revenue and cost. If I make $5, but then I spend $3, how much do I have left, or how much did I make? I made $2, right? 5 minus 3, how much did I make? Minus how much am I spending? So yeah, just subtract revenue minus cost, and there you go. So how many skateboards were sold? You can read that. It's just the graph, okay? And then when will the company break even? That's obviously going to be the intersection there. So just kind of interpret that the best that you can. So that's the end of the second page, and I will get started right on the third one here in a sec. So last page, guys. This is just some domain and range questions from a graph up here in number 6. Number 7 is domain and range from an equation, from that set notation stuff, which is very easy. Looks a little scary, but is about as easy as it gets. Number 8 is just a quick, that actually deals with a little bit of quadratic stuff that we did later in the year, but I just kind of threw that in there because I don't think it's too bad at all. It's just a quick factoring problem. You just have to kind of think through the equation a little bit. And then perimeter and area using binomials like that. Pretty simple. I'm going to go through most of these for you guys and make sure that you just kind of get them. Domain and range is something that we had a little bit of trouble with. I didn't anticipate. I think it's pretty straightforward, but that's okay. hopefully that we're pretty comfortable with it now. We can kind of do it without much difficulty at all. So this first one here, pretty simple. It looks just like a quadratic, so I'm assuming that these guys go on forever. There's no dots at the end, so you can kind of assume that it goes with arrows. So domain, remember, is x value, range is y value. Okay, so that means domain is left to right. This guy looks like, remember, quadratics domain is always negative infinity to infinity, because it's always going to continue going right at a very slow pace. It's going to keep going at a very slow pace. It's going to keep going that way as well. So domain is going to be negative infinity to infinity. Right. While the range does not go on forever, both down and up. Up it does, is you see that this thing goes up forever, but it does not go down forever, right? It starts, remember, it ranges bottom to top. So at the bottom, it does start, and I know it's kind of off there, but I'm just going to assume it stops at -3 and goes up to infinity. Okay, so remember all these, here's going to be an infinity right here where there's an arrow that's going to affect it somehow to get to infinity. But just kind of be clever with this, guys. Some of them are a little tricky, like this one. Don't think of it just as going from up here to down here. Obviously, it goes all the way up to that point. And then, you know, remember your brackets. Oh, shoot. Look at that. I didn't remember my brackets. Let's erase that. Those of you who might have caught that, right? That's a bracket there because it is a closed circle right here. So some of you might have caught that and were kind of correcting me already, but I did end up seeing that. But remember, when it's an open circle, it is a parentheses. When it's a closed circle, it is a bracket. So make sure you make note of that, okay? Moving down, find the range given with the specified domain. Okay, so this one's pretty easy, guys, pretty straightforward. I'm going to zoom into here so I can write a little bit bigger. But when we do this, guys, pretty straightforward. When you have the domain of 0, what's going to be my corresponding range? Well, I find that out by plugging it in. Big deal. Right, plug it in. So 2 times 0 is 0, minus 10 equals negative 10. What do you know, my range? Oh gosh, I'm terrible at these things. Good enough. Okay, so my first corresponding range is negative 10. Pretty simple, right? Next I'm going to do the 1. So 2 times 1 minus 10. That's 2 minus 10. That's negative 8. So my next corresponding one is negative 8. And then I'm going to plug in 2. 2 times 2 minus 10 is going to be 4 minus 10, which is negative 6. Negative 6. There you go. Look at that. Pretty simple, right? You just plug in numbers. So the same thing goes for over here, guys. You're just going to plug in 0, 1, and 2. So 0, 1, and 2. You're going to plug in to x here and solve. Big deal. All right, everyone can do that. There should be no problems there. Don't anticipate any problems there. Okay, down to number 8. So let's read this really quick. The side x of a square equals the width of a rectangle. The length of the rectangle is 6 meters longer than its width. The sum of their areas is 176 meters squared. Find the side x of the square. You read this and you think, oh my goodness, this looks way too complicated. I'm going to skip it because there's no way I can know it. Okay, don't do that. All right, this is pretty straightforward. So the side of a square equals the width of a rectangle. That means when I draw this out, there's the square, and the rectangle is just going to have the width equal to that side of the square. Meaning the square has all equal sides. That's what a square is, right? So x, 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 right? While the length of the rectangle up here is going to be 6 meters longer than its width. And you know what? Let me write that in a different color so that sticks out more. Let me zoom in. So x plus 6, right? And that's because it says the length is 6 meters longer than its width, right? That's all it tells us. So then it's just a game, right? The sum of their areas, the sum, meaning when I add up those two areas, it's going to equal 176. So the sum, geez, I can't talk anymore. I should have probably written those in. It's okay. So the square, I'm going to write in red. It's okay. So the square, I'm going to write in red. So the square's area is just going to be x squared, right? The area of this is going to be x times x, side times side, right? So x times x is x squared. So that's the area of that square. Similarly, the area of this rectangle is going to be x plus 6 times x, length times width. So the sum, meaning I'm going to add them, so then I'm going to have, what, x squared, or okay, let's write it like this first. Right, and the sum of that is they're gonna equal 176. That's all that's saying right there. Okay, this is the sum of the area of the rectangle is green. Rectangle. Right, and the sum of the area of the square. Can't draw. Is that? Okay, and then it's just a solving game. Right, then it's just a solving game. I'm gonna distribute this. So I have, I'm going to come over here and do it. So x squared, when I distribute that, it's going to be another x squared, and then a 6x equals that 176 still. Okay, then I solve. I can combine these two. So I have 2x squared plus 6x equals 176. Then you may think, okay, how do I solve this now? You know, it's just a quadratic, guys. We know how to solve quadratics. We got to get it to equal 0 and then factor. So I'm going to subtract 176 from both sides. This is cancel out. The 176 cannot combine with this or this. It can't combine with it, so I leave it on the outside. So it's going to be 2x squared plus 6x minus 176 equals 0. Right? Equals 0. Then I can factor. But even easier, I can divide everything by 2, can't I? All of this, right, 2 is even, 6 is even, 176 is even. So I can divide all of this by 2, everything by 2, to make this a little simpler on myself, right, just to make it a little simpler on myself. So I have x squared plus 3x minus, what is that, 180 would be 90, so this is 88. 0 over 2 is just 0. So these two are the same thing, guys. It's just reduced a little bit. It's going to be the same answer when we get to it. So that's really what matters to us. Okay. So when I have this, I get the factors of C that add up to B. Right. This is pretty easy. Your first instinct here is, well, 88. You think it's divisible by 11, and so when I bring this over here, negative 88. I have to add up to positive 3. So a positive 11 and a negative 8. Does that add up to positive 3? Yes, it does. Right, pretty simple. They gave us kind of an easy one. So my factors are x plus 11, x minus 8. So my roots are going to be negative 11 and positive 8. Okay, now how does that translate to this area problem over here? Well, I want to know the side length of that square. Find the side x of the square. Can I have a negative side length? Can I have this? No, I can't have a negative side length. That makes no sense. So there's only one possible answer. That's going to be the x equals 8. So I'm going to come over here and say, well, I finally got my answer. It's going to be x equals 8. There you go. All right, it's just a quick quadratic question. No big deal. Hopefully those steps made sense. I know it's kind of hard to think through that yourself, but hopefully those steps made a little bit of sense, and we're okay with that. Okay, number 9, find the perimeter and area of the rectangle. I'm just going to set this one up for you. You're more than capable of doing this one. So let's figure this out really quick. Okay, so since it says it's a rectangle, yes, this is a plus 5. So what does that mean? This side is equal to, what do you know, a plus 5, right? This is 5a plus 4. So what does that mean? This is equal to 5a plus 4. You guys are more than capable of doing that. Now, perimeter, you just add all the sides. So you're just going to say a plus 5 plus 5a plus 4 plus a plus 5 plus 5a plus 4. You're just adding all the sides. So here you just add all sides. Area, you're going to do length times width. This should not be hard for you. So it should just be a plus 5. It should be a plus 5 times 5a plus 4. Now I'm going to set that up for you just so that I can make a note really quick. A plus 5 times 5a plus 4. And then you're going to FOIL. FOIL, first, outside, inside, last. First, oh, jeez, what an idiot. First, outside, inside, last. That's the order you're multiplying by, okay? So make sure you're doing that, guys. Remember, domain and range, all this kind of stuff. Rewind if you get stuck a little bit, and hopefully I talked about a talking point. If not, help each other out, guys. Someone in the room is going to remember this stuff and be able to help. So make sure you're getting this stuff done. All right. See you next time.